And with YouTube now admitting they were pressured by the administration, previous one, to take people off of YouTube they disagreed with, whether it be political or climate. This is where we get into YouTube also was listening to those that were caught up in the interweb NGO scandal. Daniel Jones with Advanced Democracy. It's the same Daniel Jones who hired Fusion GPS to do the Steele dossier to discredit Trump, was the same Daniel Jones then handing off special reports to Vice News to then write articles about any of us in the climate space to get us removed off of YouTube. I've consulted with my attorney and I'm allowed to tell you my full story and how the algorithmic suppression on YouTube works. Everybody's been caught with their hands in the cookie jars. Everything I presented to you is public information. And I want to show you how this and your reality has been bent for the last several years to get you to believe narratives, not facts. So the major news headlines now, Google admits Biden administration pressured YouTube to censor non-violating content. And that includes everything. It wasn't just strictly on the political side. It was across the board of anything on high from the United Nations agendas all the way down to local sovereign governments and how they could operate and want the citizens to contain inside a single narrative, pushing forth these goals that are supposed to be in place by 2030-ish. And again, if you have the wrong political, well, it depends on how you look at that, structure in the country, then these goals can't be met. So it's far looping outside the United States. It's on a global level here. And one of my favorite sites here, Zero Hedge, also demonetized. I encourage you to check out Zero Hedge, one of the largest sites out there giving economic and societal information, the way that things are being bent, and the true news. They came together after 2008 with the financial crisis with a bunch of economists and said that that's not really true what you're seeing in the news. We're going to give you some financial data that's outside the realms you're looking at, and it's one of the most popular sites on the web. I encourage you to go to look at it. Now, where I come into this thing is Patreon is bankrolling climate deniers as we all burn. Wow, such a catchy title. And where did it come from is the question. Suddenly they're on this and doing all these stories about people on YouTube with climate channels. The new report provided exclusively to Vice News by Advanced Democracy. Daniel Jones, again, the same person who hired Fusion GPS to put out the Steele dossier to discredit Trump, and a new report provided to Vice News. Oh, they got this scoop provided exclusively by Advanced Democracy. Now, what is their role and what does Advanced Democracy do? That's more the question. They were trying to say that those influencers out there using peer-reviewed data are pulling too many people away from the climate change CO2 narrative. They must be stopped, is pretty much in a nutshell, and I'll give you the Cliff Note version on that. Influencers who are spreading false claims about an impending ice age, but I don't know anywhere of anybody that talks about an ice age. Yeah, there will be another one. I guarantee there will be. Will it start tomorrow? No. Are there cycles in the sun that dent and reduce crop yields? Oh, yeah. And that's what the channel was about, not an ice age. So again, even their reporting of it, whether it be me or Diamond or Christian, Ice Age Farmer or Ben over at Suspicious, it doesn't matter who it is. This whole talk of an ice age doesn't make sense. Yeah, there'll be another one. It's just a cycle in our Earth's climate history. Every 100,000 years, we get that 10,000 year the warmth of where you are right now. But again, there'll be another lock-in of ice coming along. It's been like that for what? Last 50 cycles of it, 5 million years. So I like to go back and climate cycles that far back. So the article just targets me pretty much. And there's a few other, like Electroverse, Cap over there at Electroverse was also in the article. One of the biggest accounts spreading climate conspiracies, DAP 2030. Think about it. Banks, billionaires, and countries are loading up on physical gold and silver. Why? Because when markets swing, real assets hold their value. That's how generational wealth is passed down. Don't wait until the headlines confirm what's already happening behind closed doors. It's time to protect what you've built. Noble Gold's precious metal specialists are standing by to answer your questions and walk you through every step. They make it simple to own investment-grade gold or silver that you can put in your hands or into your retirement account. And for a limited time, offer silver bonus. 1 10-ounce silver flag bar plus 1 silver American Eagle proof coin for new qualified accounts, IRA, or cash purchases. That's 2030gold.com. And with half the world moving to a gold-backed currency, you have to wonder what's going to happen in the future. That's 2030gold.com, or click on that link in the description box below. I only ever use peer-reviewed data and climate charts going back into the past. Because if you think and know that a cycle in the sun is going to come back and reduce crop production, you kind of want to look at where crop production is currently and then overlay that with climatical changes that you can find through proxy data going back some several thousand years to get a good indication. Is it an intense cycle? Is it a light cycle? Is it every single cycle that this same area is affected? And once you start to overlay and map out that data, then you can start to see these areas where cooling happens and precipitation patterns are disrupted are in our major crop zones across the planet, and it gets affected every single time. Once about every 400 years. Once in a really intense variation of it once every 2,000 years, which is 5 of those cycles. So when you start to map out this data and like, we got a huge problem here. We need to start growing our own food. You need to get your gardens ready. You need to start talking with community. Food's going to get really expensive. And lo and behold, is your food not really expensive? Well, that was what the whole crux of the channel was about, but I wasn't allowed to talk about it. Earth's going to experience an ice age. Well, it's actually a mini ice age. I'm glad they recorrected themselves. See, the title was the grabber, though. Ice age. But then further down in the story, they actually do correct themselves with mini ice age. Thank you. So here's your special report coming out. Was that January 21st, 2022. Advanced Democracy. Such the deep divers of research. All fluff stuff. It was all pretty much reading off of the United Nations IPCC policymaker, shortened version, just repackaged. The climate misinformation on social media and TV, their entire premise of this was to remove anybody talking contrary to CO2 driven climate change. So X channel here, Advanced Democracy. YouTube said in a statement, we're always working to expand and improve how we connect viewers to authoritative content about climate change. It's science. It should always be debated. That's why this makes no sense. Like, we're in science. You're always allowed to question it. You should question it. We should never stop questioning it. So for those who are authoritative, well, those who have had theories that were ahead of their time were considered not authoritative. And then suddenly they become the science norm. So, I mean, to even say that is just anti-science in itself, the way that's debated. You should always be able to debate it. There is no leader of it. They are for now, because the science as of now is of now, but it's always been disproven. There's always something new to be found. So we need to question science continuously. Here's the Advanced Democracy X page, by the way. Oh, posts are protected. Why would you do that? Daniel Jones, advanceddemocracy.org. You go over there to the website. Let me pull it up for you. And it is blank page. Are you kidding me? Independent nonprofit organization, Advanced Democracy Inc. Daniel Jones, Influence Watch. This website just consolidates all of the lobbyists in Washington and legislation they're trying to push, if there's that information on which politicians they're touching fingers with. Daniel Jones here, Democracy Integrity Project and Advanced Democracy. I'll show you how they loop on each other in the tax returns here in just a second. Fusion GPS. Remember the Daniel Steele? So President Trump, you and I have something in common here. Daniel Jones tried to discredit you and have you removed from the ballot by putting out the Steele dossier. He in turn used regurgitated United Nations information to create a quote unquote special report to push to Vice News, to then have those of us on YouTube that were talking about the climate in a different fashion removed off of the platform. Same, but different. But I guess you and I are in good company. Hired Fusion GPS with the Christopher Steele dossier. Remember that whole thing? Steele dossier, all fake. Same guy. So then YouTube spokesperson Elena Hernandez told Associated Free Press, AFP, in response to the claim that certain climate denial ads / channels have been taken down. Of course, they wouldn't respond to her inquiry. What's going on? So here we are back. And after Vice News did the hit piece, which I responded in a video, like everything they had written in there, I'm like, I got scientifically backed information that says contrary to what you're trying to say on that. 66 results for me in there. That's nice. David Gilbert, who are you? He works for Wired Magazine now. I used to work for Vice. Remember, Vice went out of business. I wonder why. But David bounced over to Wired magazine covering disinformation. I tell you, it's a bizarre world in the media landscape, is it not? Did you do any research on that piece that you put out about myself? Because I'm going to say you didn't. Because the GISP2 ice core, which is the Greenland Ice Survey Project, they drilled all the ice cores on Greenland, and they found that the temperatures were warmer as we exited out of the ice age and we come into our interglacial. Right now, like 10,000 years ago, it was warmer then. Subsequently, the temperatures keep dropping. We are cooler than we were 10,000 years ago. But then that was bad information. You never hear about the GISP2 ice core data set. It used to be the gold standard because it disproves that CO2 is making us warmer, that we were warmer 10,000 years ago when there was no factories and SUVs driving around. You didn't even do that basic amount of minimal, tiny bit, infinitesimal research to see that there could be some other sets of data that are contrary or show something different, and that should be argued. That is science. But nope, just take the report and run with it. So I want to show you some data here. The channel so far got 52 million views, far more previously, and you can see where it flatlines at the end. And I want to wide that out for you. So you can see after the dossier was put out, right where it says April 21st, 2022, you see that was kind of around the apex. It dropped out the apex, but boom, and then it just goes flatline. That's algorithmic. So I will show you again. So the channel was growing pretty well. I was bringing in 3,000 to 4,000 new subs a month. And then it just flatlines on the views as well and subscriber count. So here's Vice news article provided by Advanced Democracy. You can see where the arrow is, and then subsequently it's driven down. That's YouTube. That is you working with them. You need to relook at the channel and take the shadow ban and algorithmic suppression of views and reach off of there. Now, an interesting thing is I covered the blizzards and all the snow on the beaches and everything about a week before that extreme cold front came in last year. And, a couple 100,000 views, 170,000 views. All these 3-4 videos that I did were well above 100,000, and it pushed the algorithm way, and it broke it really. It's like, how are you getting so much reach? And wham, it slammed it back down. And what you'll notice is after that huge spike of viewership because of that specific story, now the bar has been lowered literally again. Now, those of you who are statisticians and understand, algorithms and programmable views, does this look normal to you? After that little spike when the blizzards were coming in and the snows on the beaches down in Alabama and Florida and all that covered last year, it has been flat, completely flat. Not actually, I dropped a few subscribers. So 188,000 completely flat. Now, if you look back to 2021, after that report, it looks very much as a algorithmic curve coming off of limitation. It looks very computer based on the algorithm. It just before, look at all the little, ups and downs, but then notice how flat it becomes after the report. And then, some good reporting again on some very solid information climatically brings it up a little bit, and then it flatlines again after the algorithm was beat. So again, you got to wonder what's going on. So the numbers look like this. I'll do about 15 videos a month on YouTube. You need to remove this censorship and shadow ban off of the channel. Your algorithmic ghetto got to go. So it looks like this. They clump in clusters of 3 usually. 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. And you go, oh, that's a while. Okay. And then 10, 16,000, 16,000, 16. It happens when you look at 15 videos, 12 or 13 of them will be clustered in these clusters of certain numbers. 16,000, it'll be 15,000, 15,000 every month. So if you'd like to join me on Patreon or Subscribestar /adapt2030, I'm taking a little bit different tack over that direction. Ad-free content and also commentary and, climate videos that are not listed anywhere that go up on that channel at least once or twice a month of just the same things I used to talk about were completely, taken off of YouTube. The last post I did just yesterday was talking about the 20 fruits that were removed out of our gardens and our neighborhoods after World War II. At the same time, victory gardens were discouraged, and we got pushed into that supermarket perpetual purchase model, now going to the grocery store. The 20 different fruits that we used to have and we relied on for hundreds of years as the settlers, and previously to that, to the first peoples using that as just foods that were nutritious and also could be used for tinctures and many other things like that. The whole list of 20 trees is on the channel over there. Also, back to USAID or USAID. All these same NGOs got caught up in this. I wonder why. They were using US tax dollars to then push different agendas, and all this money filtered down to these same reporters to then push the narrative to bend your. They're really building reality for you. It's not about the opinion of this or that. They're changing reality to try to have your mind exist in a different form of reality. It's very different than just changing a news story. They're actually paying to create a new reality for you mind to exist in. So Internews Network, this was all over the news. You remember that? Where these reporters and news organizations, didn't matter if it was print, television, radio, were caught outright handed, red-handed, just taking their talking points and regurgitating them. And then this is what we look at here. There's lots of these on the web, interactive. You can take a look. So you have the main funding nonprofit or NGO, I would like to call that. And then it loops out into their subsidiaries or those that they coordinate with. So it doesn't look like everything's coming from them. So they'll dish it off to 10, 12, 14 other related tax exempt or NGOs, whatever you like to term that as, tax deferred organizations that then have their own sub network of organizers that then push these talking points through the media. This is what they were caught up in, and oops, they got caught. So then we look at Daniel Jones again, the Steele dossier, and also the special report over to Vice News about the climate channels. Advanced Democracy Penn Quarter Group, that's an interesting one. I probably should put a part 2 out for this. And Democracy Integrity Project. So if we start off with Democracy Integrity Project, it's a 501c4. Now, all this is public information, and ProPublica, anytime you have a public entity like this, it's out in the public. So there's no doxing going on. Anybody can look this up. IRS, you can go to the IRS database and jump in. But ProPublica, they are just about 501c3 and 4 public entity records search database. So Democracy Integrity, a little bit smaller than Advanced Democracy. And if you go to, like I say, this Form 990 Schedule R, if you go to the bottom on the left there, identified related tax exempt organizations, who do we see? Oh, Advanced Democracy. You see, I say that you get the main funding arm that then puts it out to other subsidiaries. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Let me go over to Advanced Democracy, ProPublica, but see, they were only showing 3.57 in revenue, where Grok was showing that they had 11 million or so over those same years. You know, revenue at 2018, 2.8 million. This is straight off the IRS database here. 2019, 3.4 million revenue. And then they dropped a little bit after 2020. So I was making sure, you know, this is off the IRS. You can jump in there and take a look at their schedules. 990 for 2023, and they are still the same organization. Daniel Jones listed right there, principal officer, and advdem.org takes you to advanceddemocracy.org website, which is blank. And then if we come to the full 990 Schedule R for Advanced Democracy, who do we see down there in the tax identified related tax organization? Oh, Democracy Integrity Project. Yep, they all just keep running in a circle. But here's what's interesting. You can look them up by their EINs, which is their employer identification number. All public information as well. So the organization overview, it's only in some areas where they actually list climate change. So YouTube, again, you're caught red-handed working with these guys, taking marching orders from them and then suppressing channel views and reach. So you need to double check and look at this channel again and remove that reach suppression off of it. The writing still is on the wall of suppression. And by the way, please share this with your friends and family and any congressmen or senators that you know. YouTube is invited those that they suspended completely off the channels or off the platform back on. But what they're not doing is removing, as you can clearly see, the suppression of algorithm for the reach on certain channels. That hasn't changed. I do appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of the video. This affects all of you as well. Your reality is being morphed and bent and reshaped by the very news that you see. And the marching orders are taken by those on high from these organizations paying these peon reporters to go out and put this information across their organizations. Now, who is above those is the big question. Oh, that's on the international stage. A lot of it coming from international NGOs, including United Nations. So it just continues up in levels. But this is what is, for me personal, as if you're following my channel for any time, you can see that, wow, even all that money and everything directed to take me, that guy's message off air. How dangerous am I for using peer-reviewed research to show you the true facts and data and why your food prices are getting so expensive and expected to get even higher? How am I that dangerous, really? And I will say it again, please join me over at Patreon and Subscribestar /adapt2030. You know, these last years working through this whole thing, is some of you might go, well, that's just life, dude. It is just life. I get it. It is. And I'm glad I'm still here. Took some knocks, but got knocked down, but I'm back up. And please join us for our Thursday night radio program, 10 p.m. to midnight. Ransom Godwin and myself talking about the same thing, but we don't use YouTube for this. We only use Rumble and X and other platforms that don't suppress free speech. So the reason you don't really see this running on YouTube is we have a YouTube version of it, and we only do it on a smaller channel, and it's streamed from Rumble. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.